Olivia here today. If you're loving this conversation at the end of our conversation, then make sure to jump on over to YouTube and subscribe to the channel there, because we're constantly loading up lots of how-to tips and videos to really help you improve your skills of networking and connecting and building these really powerful relationships that are going to support you building your businesses and your careers. And you can also jump on over to my Facebook group, closed group that I am in every single day, sharing a whole heap of stuff and helping business owners, entrepreneurs, incredible executives connect with each other. So let's just get on with it. Let me introduce you to this incredible woman, Olivia Walsh. Now, to give you some background, I met Olivia. Oh, by the way, I keep forgetting, if you're there, just introduce yourself. I've just put the chat on. If you've got any questions, let me know. Apparently, if you are in Facebook and you want to join in the conversation, this is the link that you need to do. I'll leave that up for a second, but chat away, introduce yourselves, tell me where you are listening in from. So let me introduce you to this incredible woman, Olivia Walsh. Olivia and I actually probably met around International Women's Day. I don't know, maybe like 6 years ago. At the time, she was working here in Sydney, and we worked together in terms of pulling together an incredible program that I continue to run within her organization that she works for. But what I love about Olivia is her passion around learning, the growth mindset, the commitment to actually becoming better. And the reason I've got her on this call is because before going live, we had our catch up. Olivia is now in Dallas. And over these last 6 or 7 years, however long it's been, Olivia is an absolute shining example of how to network the right way, how to connect the right way. And we were talking about how our relationship has developed over the years as both our jobs and our careers have expanded. And I've literally just put her on the spot because I said, don't suppose you're brave enough to join me on a live stream and talk about networking for a second. And she went, oh, okay then, let me grab a little quick glass of water and we'll go. So she is not prepared. She has no idea what she's in for, but she is an absolute shining example of networking success story. So welcome, Olivia.
Oh, Janine, thank you. Look, it is a joy. I have to say, I cannot get over your energy, but it's Friday morning for you. It's Thursday evening for me. So you're like abounding with energy and I'm kind of tapering into the end of my day.
You're tapering to the end of the day.
It's a joy to be here. So thank you.
Oh, it's great. And as many of you might be trying to work out, she's not in Australia now. No, she's not. She's in Dallas, and she doesn't have the American accent because she's originally from Ireland. And this is key, right? So moving from Ireland, building a career in Australia, and then building her career in the US. So Olivia, can you remember back before we even met? And maybe share with people that are listening in, before we met, what was networking? What did it look like? And how did that go for you?
Yeah, oh goodness, Janine. I mean, when I think about network, from back in those days, I remember going to events that I hated. Now, and I'm also an introvert as well, but an introvert who can hold a conversation, an introvert who also wants to have dynamic interactions with people and have meaningful conversations. And I just remember going to events and just going, I'm not really enjoying this. I'm not getting, people, the usual, the handing out the cards, it not coming from an authentic place. And then to be really honest, I actually found it incredibly difficult when I first moved to Australia to meet people outside of those forums. And I just remember, like, how do I even get invited? How do I get there? And there was just so much putting myself out there. And I truly did want to build a community and build a trusted network that I could, leverage, that I could contribute and add to. And I mean, I think about it now, and compared to the way I am now, where I am super intentional, and we'll talk about that shortly. But for me, it was a chore. It wasn't enjoyable. And to be really honest, I wasn't getting invited in. That was the other aspect as well.
Yes, what you're talking about there, Olivia, are the problems that I hear all the time. These problems around, actually, I don't know anybody, and how on earth do I find these people, and are they the right people anyway? And that whole concept around building a high quality network. There's then that challenge around confidence, and if you overlay into the confidence the introvert, like how tricky it is to just like push yourself out of your comfort zone, and how do you build those skills? And the final bit that you touched on there was, then when I meet someone, how on earth do I beautifully leverage these relationships? How do I nurture them, and how do I cultivate them? So that over time, I talk about the long lead time around relationship building, that actually it is a long game building great connections. And we were just talking about a mutual connection of ours that you connected with in where was it, Denver, that you and I have both have incredible respect for, and that's an example of how to nurture relationships. So think about how you felt. You arrived in Australia with no network, and yet a really important job to do. You had to go out there and try and find a network. Then it was, how do I manage it? How do I build up my skills? We then met, and I think I downloaded, do it like this. These are my ideas. This is what we should be doing. How's it changed for you now? When you think about what you're doing now, what's changed?
You know what? It's funny. I feel it is organic, but at the same time, I am thoughtful, and I plan it through. And I just think, I think there's not one person that's probably not on today that doesn't have, whether it's a busy professional life or a busy personal life, but I actually thoroughly enjoy it. I actually love nurturing my network. And that's part of the reason why you and I were talking this afternoon, or this morning, your time, was, you know what, I haven't talked to Janine. It's been a couple of months. Yes, we message and we email, but we just hadn't had that fruitful conversation or that purposeful connection as a chat. And I really felt like, you know what, it's time. Let's connect. Let's do it. And thoroughly value add, exactly what I needed. It's given me the boost and the motivation on a couple of things that I've been mulling on and thinking through. And so I look at it now, and I don't think, regardless of industry background, personality type, so like I shared, I'm an introvert, very reflective person, and the benefits and the enlightenment that I get from my network, just amazing. And this week was interesting because I know it was International Women's Day. It almost is 2 or 3 weeks of activity. But I was very purposeful about the people that I reached out to in my network. I hadn't heard from some of them in months. Some of them, in fact, it was actually years. But I thoughtfully wrote to them, and I wrote authentic words for me regarding them. You know, it's been a while, and just connecting with them. So I do plan. I do think it through. I do go through spells. Certainly, there are times where I go, you know what, I actually need to go back and invest in my network. It's definitely part of my leadership plan and my professional plan as well.
So I love what you've just said there around it being such an important part of your personal and professional development plan. What are the critical, when you think about the people that you've got in your network, how do they help you? What are the roles that they're playing? What's the most important thing that you go to them for?
Gosh, it varies. And I even think about that interaction at Christmas time where I caught up with our mutual contact there. That truly was, haven't seen you in a year or two, let's just meet. It was actually going into it more on a personal front. But then through that, we talked commercial, we talked about what was happening in business. We're in similar industries. So I walked out of that with just a wealth of industry knowledge, how that person is navigating their current leadership transition. So there are times where I kind of feel I might be going to have a coffee catch up with a female professional. I might be having a Zoom catch up with a friend I haven't caught up in a long time. But then on the other end of it, in terms of thought leadership, or I'm I'm looking at a few new projects at work. And right now, the priority for me is what's moving and shaking in the talent world. What are some current trends? This whole, I mean, everyone is living with the return to work after COVID, and what are some of the pivots from last year that might be impacting people now? So then I'm going into those conversations much more with, okay, well, let's talk about workforce, let's talk about changes, you know, what's happening, how could I take some of that and build it into my plans. So I mean, it definitely does vary, and I would have, you know, times where I'm leaning in more on the personal side versus more on the commercial professional side.
So I have just captured a couple of things that you have said in typical Janine style, Olivia. And essentially what you have talked about, so hopefully people can see this, you know, you've basically shared that you are purposeful about how you network, which is absolutely one of the critical things we have to do if we want to successfully nurture our network. I was one of the recipients of one of those emails, and it was so clear that there was thought put into it. It was one of those, you know, it's like the surprise and delight that often we talk about in our own businesses, that we talk about in terms of how to nurture our clients. But that purposeful surprise and delight connection piece is such a critical part of nurturing network. The other thing you talked about was the intentionality around it. You talked about, you know, how a plan is so important. And, you know, you have moved multiple countries, taken on increased responsibility, moved to the US pre-COVID, and then lived through 12 months of, you know, chaos around the world and living in a new country and having to totally rebuild your network. That intentionality around that is key. And again, it's so important that all of us start thinking about, what is it that I want to achieve next? What is it that I'm trying to achieve? And who's going to help me? And one of the third thing that I've written down there that you talked about was this importance of investing the time. You said, you know, sometimes I let it go because the reality is work is busy. But the importance of investing time. And I see so many clients, as I'm sure you do in your work, Olivia, that actually don't invest the time that is needed to actually nurture these relationships and build the network that they want. And then that final piece about how important it is to increase your skills. And you talked about, you know, it's important for me because it helps expand my knowledge base. It gets me thinking differently about the various challenges that I might be facing right now, the advice piece and the importance of mentorship. And I think all of us, we're moving at such a rate of speed in such a critical period of time where everything is changing so much. The ownership around, I don't know everything, and I need to actually have people that I can bounce ideas off, where I can tap into their intelligence, where knowing actually collectively is going to help my smarts is key. So love that. Great student. Love your work. So for the people that are listening right now, if you could give them 3 tips, and I'll keep this up so I can write it down, what would be, from your experience over the last few years, the 3 tips that you would give to people? Well, first of all, do you think networking is important? Do you think it's a skill from a leadership perspective?
I mean, absolutely, hands down, it's important. I was going to actually say, it's interesting. I think about my work week or my work month, powering through things, doing stuff. And it's amazing how at times I go, you know what, I think I need to catch up with this person, or I have a plan, someone that I need to meet. And the work day never ends. It's the work night. It's the 24-hour cycle of doing things. And I have not yet had a networking conversation that I've walked out of and gone, well, that was a waste of time. Because every time, if I'm not yielding something from it, from a business perspective, or I'm helping someone, or it's been enriching for my soul, which that's one thing I would say, you know, with networking, maybe not necessarily a tip, but I think something that's mindful and to be mindful of is sometimes it's actually just good for your human endeavor. So I would say, I mean, in the first aspect, make the time for it. Absolutely try and factor it in. And I don't have the perfect recipe or sort of schedule for me, but even when I think about it, at least every week, every 2 weeks, have some conversation where you are tapping into your network, whether it's a new contact, whether it's someone you met recently, whether it's someone you even read about that you think, that could be a great person for me to collaborate with. So I would say that one hands down. Secondly, the whole piece around just being authentic about your network, and it goes a little bit back to that whole thing around the intent behind it. I mean, there are times where I truly do need help, and reaching out to someone to say, could I pick your brain? You know what? I'm working on something. I read you did this, or I know you've been involved with this type of work before. And when there are times where you just haven't spoken to someone in such a long time, and it really is just that reconnect conversation of, I was thinking about you, I just want to connect for 30 minutes over a Zoom coffee, and there's no sort of agenda for the meeting, but it is just about just saying hi and reconnecting. So I do think being open about why you have that or why you're looking or seeking that connection point.
Yeah.
And you know what, Janine, I'd probably say the last thing is just do it and be brave. I certainly feel that when it comes to your network, the tables have changed so much now. We're not walking into events like we used, well, certainly not here in the US, we're not at all. I know in Australia and in other places things are opening up, but it isn't just about, God, I have to go and network and really put myself out there. I do think you can be just so much more sophisticated about it nowadays, and go ahead and do it. If there is that person you've always wanted to connect to and you haven't, someone from years gone by, something new, really wanting to push yourself in a different direction, absolutely do it. I wouldn't hold off, just, be brave and absolutely do it.
And those are just great tips, Olivia, because all of them, they're like anything, right? They're tips that we probably hear and we know, but they're hard to do. You've got to take ownership around putting the time aside. You've got to be brave enough to actually ask for the help that you want, or to literally just reach out. So many people I speak to go, oh, but what if I just want to connect and I've got nothing to say? It's like, well, be honest, just be authentic, like you've said, and that concept of just, you got to do it. In this world that is as competitive it is, that is as ever changing as it is, where we've got no idea really where it's going. The only thing that's going to help us succeed is each other. And this is, to me, where through the highs and the lows, through the tough times and the good times, through the good and the bad, it is the people around us that will absolutely help us take that next step to where we want to go. So I am just so grateful that you reached out to me all those years ago. I'm really grateful that you trusted me. We've done some incredible work together. And now I absolutely, truly appreciate having you in my inner circle, helping me understand the global environment even more. And even the conversations that we have, which are all these big picture conversations, strategic conversations about where things could possibly go. It feeds my soul. So you're such a key part of my network, and I look at your career success. So anyone that is interested, just check out Olivia Walsh on LinkedIn. Her career success, the impact that she's making, the work that she is doing, the changes that she is initiating for talent around her is phenomenal. So that's down to the people that you've had in your world, Olivia, and high five to all your success.
Oh, Janine, thank you. And I just could not, no matter what country, what time, the sun is setting in Dallas here, and I know it's you guys you're at your Friday, it's almost your weekend, and it doesn't matter where we are, we can always just pick up the phone to each other, always message, and thoroughly, it's been a tremendous experience together. I'm just so blessed to have you in my network, in my life, personally, professionally, and it does make me smile. Like I do think of all these interactions and things we've achieved as the years have gone by, and the challenges keep coming, but the purity of our relationship and the health of our of the work that we do together. It never dwindles. It's always amazing.
And that is available to everyone, right? If they can just get out of their own way and realize how important people are to their world. So thank you for letting me put you on the spot. Thank you for being brave enough to connect with people that are listening to all my work. And I've had the best 2 hours this morning. What an amazing start to my Friday. Thanks, Olivia.
Oh, just a delight. Thank you, Janine. Talk soon.
You take care. Speak soon. As I said, if people are loving this conversation, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. There'll be more of this happening over these next few months, where I'll be introducing you to my network so that you can connect and get to know them more. And if you want to hear a little bit more about everything that I teach, then jump on over to the Facebook group. Also, I am running a webinar on this coming Wednesday, Australian time, Tuesday evening, Northern Hemisphere time, where I'm going to be teaching you some skills around understanding the opportunity that is available for you in terms of how effective you are right now, and maybe the opportunity you might be missing, give you some tips and tools and ideas about how you can improve your networking. And obviously, you'll be online with me, so we'll have the chance to connect. If you're interested in that, just DM me and I can send you the details, or check out any of my social media platforms and you will find the link on there. Great to see you this morning, and I will see you again next week.